Well, the weather might not be fine for that much longer. Hey everybody, Mike Iskovitz here, forecasting with friends. Only one friend today, just me, your friend Mike. It's a good news, bad news forecast. Actually, it's about 90% bad news. I'll start off with the good news, which is that our temperatures are probably going to be in the 80s all week. So that's nice. But let's get to the not so good news, which is we're likely in for some more heavy rain. So I want to get into it here with a look at moisture levels. Now, when we're looking at these moisture levels, when we talk about deep moisture, look, it's always humid around here, right? I mean, not always, but during the summertime, it's typically humid. But sometimes when you go up in the atmosphere, it's not as humid. Well, that's going to be changing this week. And so what we want to pay attention to are those dark green colors. That's where we have that deep moisture that's coming in. In fact, we have it right now along our coastal tier of counties. It's going to build in farther inland later today, but then this is a look ahead at Tuesday. So we're looking at the GFS, which is the American computer model, and it's showing those dark colors there along the coastal areas and Houston itself also coming up tomorrow, and now heading into the day on Wednesday. Once again, dark greens, basically we could call it like maybe along the 59/69 corridor. So from Wharton and Sugar Land through downtown Houston and up toward the north is where we're going to have the thickest moisture around, or the deepest layer of humidity. And then heading into Thursday, it shifts to the coastline, but it's still very, very high, leading to the chance for heavy rain there. And then at the end of the loop here, coming up on Thursday, it starts to show those moisture levels on the decrease. So let's talk about how much rain we're looking at here. Obviously a big concern when we start to see some of those blue colors showing up, because that's where you're getting into that 4-inch plus category. Now, I want you to notice today that we're not seeing widespread 4 inches. We're seeing little isolated bullseyes where you see some of that blue color show up. This is what's called our graph computer model. And it is somewhat hit or miss today and should be focused in Brazoria County, and maybe this afternoon even around Houston and in Harris County. Also tonight, there may be a line setting up from Belleville back over to maybe Conroe. Now, we'll get another wave of rain coming up on Tuesday, probably another wave of rain coming up on Wednesday. And then, as I shared with you, the focus of that moisture is likely to shift closer to the coastline coming up on Thursday. So all in all, we're looking for some of those white colors showing up, meaning that we could see like 8, 9, or 10 inches of rain across parts of Brazoria County, maybe Galveston County, maybe Chambers County. A lot of the newest model runs are showing heavy rain in Houston, but not as heavy. So nevertheless, this is going to be a big deal for some communities that will likely end up seeing some flooding coming up by as early as today, but then especially heading into tomorrow, Wednesday, and Thursday. So I'll show you a couple other model runs here. This again is that GFS computer model, the American model, which was showing the moisture shifting to the coastline. Between now and Friday morning, it's showing gobs of rain, what would probably end up being something like 12 to 15 inches of rain over there near Beaumont and heading over to Lake Charles. Along our part of the coastline, it's showing a pretty solid 4, 5, and 6 inches of rain, with somewhat lower totals inland around Houston. Now, if this were the scenario that plays out, it wouldn't be that big of a deal in Houston itself. We can compare that here to the European computer model, which is showing less rain overall, but is focusing the heavier rain a little bit closer to Houston and Pearland and maybe Missouri City, maybe even the Clear Lake area, you know, getting in on maybe those 3, 4, 5 inches of rain. So that is, you know, what we're looking at here as far as the forecast, and the National Weather Service has taken that under sort of advisement, and they have highlighted this part of the state of Texas as being at a risk for what's called excessive rainfall for today and tonight. So that get used to it, because we're going to be in for basically day-to-day of you know, lots of threats for heavy rain. All right, moving on now to some weather-related news. So recovery expenses following Hurricane Beryl are mounting to an awful lot for families in our area. A couple went to the extent of selling their wedding rings. So Fox 26's Sherman DeSalle shares their story.
This couple, like so many others, willing to do whatever they can to survive after a hurricane. And even though Beryl has passed, it leaves behind some serious expenses for people in our area.
We literally bought like almost $600 worth of meat. I mean, I was almost in tears when I emptied that, and the smell.
Ruth Gonzalez and her husband Guy Vasquez says it's been tough.
It's just a day by day.
Hurricane Beryl knocked out their power and destroyed hundreds of dollars in groceries, making it tough to feed their 4 grandchildren on a fixed income.
Just to see all that food just being thrown out, it was heartbreaking. It really was.
Finding cooling centers, gas, and food has become a big expense each day. The couple, who also deals with a host of health issues, recently pawned their wedding bands for a little over $100 each.
We just got that ring out.
At the pawn shop.
Out of the pawn shop. Just got it out. And I'm like, I don't want to do it again. I'm tired of doing it.
And I really can't help her to get the rings this month. And I have 5 more weeks before I get paid again.
It's an indication of just how tough it is for Houstonians, and the economic impact Beryl's leaving behind is significant. As reported on Fox Weather, analysis company CoreLogic expects a range of wind damage topping at $2.5 billion, making it the costliest storm for Texas since Hurricane Harvey. This as FEMA continues to award disaster aid to households impacted by the storm. As of July 17th, over 161,000 people have applied and $126 million has been distributed. Guy and Ruth hope to get the rings back, but it will be more expensive when they do. They pray things get better so early in an active storm season.
We see how strong Houston is, and we're just embracing it and going with their flow. So we're a tough family.
So thankfully their power is back on, and hopefully they can get back to some normalcy and get back to the things that they were doing before Beryl. Guy is currently taking courses for cyber security training, and also Ruth is making and selling beaded jewelry. We hope that that works out and that ultimately they get those rings back. Reporting from Houston, Sherman DeSalle, Fox 26 News.
All right, thanks, Sherman. All the best wishes to those folks. Well, many Houston yards still littered with tree debris as the monumental task of cleaning up after Hurricane Beryl continues. So you may be wondering if those downed trees can be saved and how we can help our trees make it through the next storm. Consumer reporter Heather Sullivan has more from Shepherd Park with an expert from Texas Trees for Houston.
Are in Shepherd Park, where there's lots of trees down and damaged here, and I'm with Barry Ward. He's the executive director of Trees for Houston, and we're going to show you what to look for in your trees, what can be saved and what can't, and some things are going to really surprise you. I've been learning a lot by talking to him already this morning. We want to talk first about root balls. We've got one here behind us. People are wondering, can a tree be uprighted and saved?
Yeah, and they can. It depends on the species, of course, and how big the tree is. Tree behind us, of course, is far too large to do it. But anything, 3, 4, 5 inches around, there's a possibility you can get that back up and get that righted, restaked, and you can safely save your tree and get it to regrow. My strong recommendation, however, is that if the tree is beyond just a couple inches in diameter, you need to get a professional out there to help you with that.
Absolutely. We're going to end everything with you. Absolutely need to get a certified arborist to take a look at some of these issues. Let's talk about the next issue, and that is that we've got this broken branch from this very tall tree up here. You have some concerns about that.
I do. That break won't harm the tree in the long term. That tree is large enough, it'll sustain that trauma. It won't have any problem. The real problem is you've got, probably 500-600 pounds of wood hanging from there just by a thread. When that falls, there's a bunch of kinetic energy is going to come down with it, and that's dangerous to people, right? So look for things like that in your own trees at home. If you have a dependent branch like that, you need to get a professional out there to cut that out.
Before the next storm hits. And this is going to surprise you here, because this tree to me looks healthy, but you say this tree has got some problems.
Right. Physiologically, that tree is going to be fine. The problem is it's been topped on its 2 largest branches. You can see the traumatic prune on that. The wind just sheared those off. And what's going to happen with that tree is when it tries to regrow leaves quickly to make up for the lost photosynthetic capacity, the ability to feed itself, it's going to come out structurally weaker than it did before. So that tree long term will be a danger because of a structural issue, but not because it's going to die.
And quickly, you need to take a look at the brown trees and leaves they need to come down.
Yeah, exactly. When the leaves start dying back, as you can see up in the canopy here, that means that branch is broken up there somewhere. The small ones will just blow out over time. They're not a problem. They may be a nuisance in terms of cleaning your yard. But big ones, as like the pine you just showed here, those can be dangerous. There's so much potential energy tied up in all of that wood up there that if that falls and strikes people or property, it's going to be a problem. So when you see a bunch of brown leaves, again, get a professional out there and have them assess your tree and have them clean it up for you.
Yeah, that's really the best advice of all. Do consult a certified arborist to get some professional advice about your trees.
All right, excellent. Well, hey, speaking of trees, in California, crews are slowly making progress in containing a fast-moving wildfire. So far, the Ridge Fire has burned over 2,000 acres there in Northern California. People are being evacuated as the flames threaten about 50 houses and other buildings. At last check, the fire was only 15% contained. Officials say they're getting help from favorable weather conditions, although it is going to be kind of hot out there today. All right, now to the other side of the country where scientists have deployed a new tool off the Florida Keys. They hope it's going to help them better protect the coral reef system. Kimberly Cuizon from our sister station in Tampa has more on a sensor nicknamed Sea Fox.
Under the water at Lou Key, scientists with Mote Marine Laboratory, the Southeast Ocean and Coastal Acidification Network, and the U.S. Geological Survey went to work, installing a machine called a Sea Fox.
It's really exciting for us to see that down on the seafloor.
Located right next to a coral reef system, the instrument will work to collect samples of water temperature, salinity, pH, and dissolved oxygen to evaluate for ocean and coastal acidification.
It's right at the coral level, so it is testing the water right where the corals are.
Acidification is a threat to coral reefs.
Ocean acidification specifically, the drop in pH, can cause corals to not be able to grow new corals. It can cause corals to actually start to dissolve.
Mote will monitor the Sea Fox for the next 5 years. Data will be uploaded once a month, giving a look into what is happening currently to protect and better understand the Florida coral reef system.
We're hoping to provide this data to managers, for example, so like managers of our marine protected areas down there or our coral restoration practitioners, so they can see what is happening in real time down there and to make decisions on how to best restore and maintain our coral reef environment.
As coral reefs across the world face threats, including disease and hotter water temperatures, protecting them has become a global mission.
If we lose our coral reefs and we lose the fish species and the coral species that live on it, we can see a lot bigger impacts than just the loss of a coral.
Kimberly Cuizon, Fox News.
Sorry, I butchered Kimberly's name. Sorry, Kimberly, if you're watching. All right, so hey, stay with us. Meteorologist John Dawson is putting another product to the hurricane gear test, plus NASA's new moon challenge. See you in a couple minutes.
Fox 26 is 26 YouTube page. Like and subscribe today.
A little change all the time when the weather is fine.
All right, welcome back, everybody. As the Houston area continues to recover from Hurricane Beryl, it's just a reminder of what could be, of course, what we expect to be a very active hurricane season ahead. While FEMA works to get disaster aid to people here in Texas, the agency is also urging other states like Florida to get ready just in case a storm moves their way. Evan Moon from our sister station in Orlando spoke to FEMA's federal coordinating officer about being prepared, which unfortunately includes getting ready for scams.
Floridians know it all too well. Torrential rain, storm surge, tornadoes, and high winds. Hurricanes are no friend to the Sunshine State. But with the 2024 season expected to be especially severe, FEMA is warning to prepare before it gets here.
If you're waiting until a day or two out, it might be too late. People can absolutely start preparing now. And that starts just by making a plan. Where are they going to go for shelter? Are they going to drive inland? Are they unable to drive? Do they need to know where the local shelter is? Do they have enough food, water, commodities to last for several days?
FEMA is also stressing that con artists and criminals will try to take advantage of people when they are at their most vulnerable.
They're stressed. They may not be thinking straight because of what they've just gone through. And unfortunately, that's when people are going to try to take advantage of you. So if you know things ahead of time, that's going to help mitigate that. That's important.
He says there are things to watch out for.
They could knock on your door. They could call you unsolicited. FEMA should never be calling you unsolicited. If anybody approaches you saying they're from FEMA, they should be easily identifiable. They're probably going to be wearing a shirt like I have. They're going to have a badge. They're going to be able to give you their name. And if you still aren't sure that they're from FEMA, call your local authorities.
Hurricane Beryl made landfall in Texas earlier this month, wreaking havoc on the southern half of the Lone Star State. An early reminder to heed these warnings.
I can't stress enough how important it is for people to prepare. We see what's happening in Texas right now with how long the power's been out there. There's still a lot of hurricane season left to go, which means there's still a lot of time for people to prepare.
Evan Moon, Fox News.
All right, here's my favorite part. The hurricane gear test is coming up. So Hurricane Beryl reminded us all that being prepared for a loss in electricity should be part of our hurricane plans. A battery-powered light is important to have, but maybe you're looking for something more than just a plain old flashlight. Well, on today's hurricane gear test, John Dawson, my colleague and friend, shows us a rechargeable lantern, or as John says, lantern, inspired by origami.
When it comes to emergency supplies, I'm not looking for stuff that's pretty, but when I find something that can do its job well and is pleasing to look at, it certainly gets my attention. On today's Hurricane Gear Test, I've got an attractive light that I enjoy looking at. This is the Mega Puff from Solite Design. It's a solar rechargeable lantern that can also be used as a cell phone charger. Let's start with the light settings. This is warm low. This is bright low. Warm high, bright high. There's also a warm bright high. Here's high red. And finally, blinking red. And I'm going to be honest, that's a little bit more than I need. But what I do need are long run times. And I'm impressed with the 48 hours it will run on high and the amazing 150 hours it'll run on low. The listed weight is only 8.8 ounces and it'll flatten down to just half an inch tall. The built-in battery is 4,000 milliamp hours and the solar panels here on top will need about 10 hours of direct sunlight for a full charge. But you also have this USB port that you can completely charge before a storm hits. That same USB port can also charge your phone, and they say this is self-inflating because you don't have to blow it up. Origami Precision supports this cube of light. This fabric that it's made of is sailcloth. It's extremely durable, yet pleasantly diffuses light, and it also makes it water resistant. I give the Solite Mega Puff a Cat 5 out of 5 on my Hurricane Kit priority scale. The price was a little more than I expected, but it really is more than just a pretty light. The online price is $68. Do you have a favorite light that is also attractive? Tell me about it in a comment on my YouTube channel. Just search for meteorologist John Dawson.
I like when we get a 5 out of 5 on those hurricane gear tests. All right, 55 years after the first landing on the moon, NASA continues to prepare for the return of astronauts to the lunar surface and the eventual establishment of a moon base. How cool would that be? This time, the agency wants to make sure to minimize its impact. NASA has launched the Luna Recycle Challenge. It's offering funding to a business or startup that has an idea of how to make long lunar missions low or zero waste, so nothing has to be returned to Earth. Moon missions in the 60s and 70s left behind landers, of course our flag, equipment, and yeah, even those golf balls, you remember that? And human waste on the surface. Kind of stuff you never think about. All right, stick around. Back with another look at what's setting up to be a very soggy week ahead, and a look at the tropics as well, and your 7-day forecast too. So I'll be back in just a couple minutes.
Fox 26 News. Fox 26 YouTube page. Like and subscribe today.
A little change over time, and the weather is fine.
All right, welcome back on the green wall now, looking at a lot of green, and that is moisture levels in the atmosphere. So what we're looking for here are bright, bright greens and even like a green-white color. That's the top of our legend here. You see over there where it goes from dry, which we don't really have any of, to very humid. And the more humidity you have in the atmosphere over a thicker layer, the greater the potential is for heavy rain. So here's a look at our futurecast beginning this afternoon with plenty of the bright greens around, but then the highest likelihood, I mean the highest what we call precipitable water totals, most available humidity begins to surge in off of the Gulf of Mexico coming up through the day on Tuesday, and then especially here coming into the day Wednesday. Now the focus looks like it's going to be centered along the coastline. Basically all of our coastal areas, you know, whether you're in Palacios or the Brazos Port area or back over even to Port Arthur, those are the areas that could get the heaviest rain. But of course, anything that's heavy, even if it's just for one day, in Houston could mean flooding. So that's what we got to keep an eye out for. But some of these bright colors here showing up even into the day on Thursday indicate a very high likelihood for heavy rain. And then everything starts to calm down a little bit, not completely, but a little bit, as we head into Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. So right now, the rain is actually starting to move in. We're starting to see some downpours across the area, especially south of Houston, as temperatures reach into the upper 80s. That's about as high as we're going to get, because once we reach that temperature, man, does it just provide these big thermal updrafts that are creating these big tall clouds here off to the south of Houston. It does look like a few spots have hit 90, but that's going to be very short-lived. So 90 for Channelview, Katy, Cypress, and Sugar Land right now. But of course, where the rain does come in, look at that. Galveston actually right now is at 79 degrees. Doesn't happen very often that Galveston is 79 at 11:26 in the morning, but you know, today is a day in which we have some of those scattered downpours. So we have a wave of rain that's coming in, not severe, but it is coming down right now around Rosenberg, and that's going to be making its way toward Katy and basically right inside the beltway of Houston coming up here within the next hour or so. We do have some lightning along this, but so far it's not anything too nasty, nothing that's more than just sort of an ordinary thunderstorm. We'll have to keep an eye on this area here from Alvin and Santa Fe back over to Clear Lake in the League City Dickinson area, because it does look like we're going to see some training of thunderstorms over that area. It could start to accumulate maybe an inch or two of rain. The weather setup for the rest of this week is an unusual one, with high pressure in Florida, high pressure in California, and then a dip in the jet stream that's going to bring several waves of rain here to our area, combined with that Gulf moisture. And that's why you'll see this sort of channel setting up here from around Laredo, Del Rio, Texas, around there, across San Antonio, Houston, and then all the way back over to the Carolinas, where all of this moisture is going to get pulled up from the Gulf of Mexico and just sort of channeled in that area day after day this week. So here's what we got lined up for you. A rainy, stormy pattern setting up today. Definitely rainy. So an 80% rain chance, couple of 2, 3, even 4 inches of rain possible. Then it gets most likely stormier coming up in some spots tomorrow, and then heading into Wednesday and Thursday, a high likelihood for rain. Hey, thanks for tuning in to Forecasting with Friends. Fox 26 News at noon is coming up in about 30 minutes, so stick around. Hope to see you then.